Whether it's cars, comics, video games, or violins, there's a little geek in all of us. It's time to give your geek a voice. It's time for Geek Therapy. Here's your host, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to another week of Geek Therapy Radio. I am Johnny Hamburger again, and for the foreseeable future, because this is my show. It is mine. You can't take it from me. So just listen. I am distracted. I am recording the show. If you haven't figured out, it's recorded for the time being, to let you peek behind the curtain yet again. But I am late in recording this week's show. I usually record it on this day, but I'm a couple hours late because I've been distracted. I've been distracted for a couple reasons. Well, first, let me plug the social media. Facebook, Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, and my website, geektherapyradio.com. So there's the plugs. Go like the Facebook page, and I'll love you forever. So yes, I've been distracted. So I'm 2 hours late recording, and I don't have the greatest excuse ever. It's a common excuse, and it's the excuse that lots of us have fallen victim to. That is, I got stuck watching cat videos on YouTube. And here's the thing about that. You never go on, well, I never go onto YouTube to watch cat videos. Like I don't, look at the watch, oh, I've got free time. Let me go watch cat videos on YouTube. I've never done that. I've never really watched a whole lot of cat videos on YouTube. Which apparently that's what YouTube was created for, and the internet was created for, is cats. So anyways, I usually get on YouTube and I watch technology stuff, geeky stuff, airplane stuff. So I got on the, stuff that gives me ideas for, what to do shows about. So I got on there and I started off by watching videos about a product called the Boosted Board. Particularly the Boosted Board 2.0, which is basically an electric skateboard. More accurately, an electric longboard. And they are awesome. 1,500 watts or 2,000 watts of power. It can propel you up to 22 miles an hour. And it's got really great range and it's really fun. But they start at like $1,500. That is so expensive. I would love to have a boosted board. They look awesome. They look like so much fun, and I bet you they're so much fun. Obviously, they're so much fun. They're pretty popular, but the people who are reviewing these things on YouTube, from what I see, they're doing pretty great. Or what's more likely happening is their sponsors are, these companies are giving them models to review on purpose. They either get to keep them or they have to give them back. Doesn't matter. I would argue that the average Joe does not have $1,500 laying around to spend on a skateboard. That's the rub with that. So anyways, I was watching videos about the Boosted Board 2.0. And somehow, as happens so often, I wound up watching cats. Kittens. In particular on YouTube. And there I went. Truly I tell you, I was but the folly of man incarnate. We get distracted by cats. This show this week is going to be really fun. I was going through the week, and these stories just kept happening to me. These cool stories that I'm just like picking out of the air, like, wow, that's a great topic for Geek Therapy Radio. This is a great topic for Greek. I keep wanting to call it Greek Therapy. Maybe for April Fools, I'm going to do a show called Greek Therapy Radio, and it's just going to be all about Greek stuff, Greek mythology. That's actually not a bad idea. You can geek out about Greek mythology. Let's put a pin in that. Ouch. Okay, that's not where a pin goes. Anyways, these topics were just coming out of me from the universe. They're opening up a museum of failed products. Ooh, that's great. We're going to do that. The new class of astronauts has been announced this week. Wow, we're going to talk about that also. That's amazing. So there are some fun topics we are going to talk about this week on Geek Therapy Radio. Maybe Greek Therapy next April. I missed the boat on the Greek Therapy. So anyways, let's just get into it. These failed products that are fascinating. You know, back in the 50s, they had the Ford Edsel. I don't know if any of my geeks are listening. My more experienced geeks, I'll just put it that way nicely. My more experienced geeks remember the Ford Edsel, the 1957 Ford Edsel, which was a bomb. Would you buy a car named Edsel? No. You got Mustang, Camaro, Ferrari, which is a brand, Corvette, which is a naval ship. That's what the Corvette means. It's a small maneuverable naval ship. If I'm recalling correctly off the top of my head. You know, I have the computer in front of me. I can look it up. But if memory serves, Corvette is a Navy ship, an agile, Navy ship. Anyways, no, you would not buy a Ford Edsel. Oh, sweet Edsel, bro. No, you wouldn't buy that. So another marketing failure, which I was surprised, is the Sony Betamax. Do you guys remember the Betamax? I remember Betamax. We had Betamax tapes. We had Betamax machines. Here's the thing. It came out in 1975. I was not born in 1975, but we had beta tapes through the 90s. They were a little bit smaller than VHS tapes. Well, the home version of Betamax, the tapes were a little bit smaller than VHS. They had Betamax tapes that they used in like the news industry and the TV industry, and those tapes were massive. But the home Betamax tapes, a little smaller than VHS, and they were of higher quality. The image quality was better on a Betamax. So why did Betamax fail? If it was technically superior and the actual tapes were a little bit smaller, more compact, easier to deal with, less unwieldy than VHS, not that VHS was unwieldy. The simple reason why the Sony Betamax failed is that Sony kept the technology proprietary, meaning there was no such thing as JVC Betamax or RCA Betamax or Sanyo Betamax or whatever, Philips Betamax. Nope, Sony kept that technology within their own. Well, they kept it proprietary. Nobody else could use Betamax, and that's the simple reason why it failed. Is that VHS was ubiquitous and cheaper. So Betamax failed, even though it was technically superior. It failed because Sony did not license the technology out to other companies. And do you remember New Coke? It was the mid-'80s, and Coca-Cola was losing a little bit of ground, a little bit of market share to Pepsi, which Pepsi is a little bit sweeter than Coke. And Coke responded by making New Coke, which was just sweeter Coke, and people did not like it. It turns out that lots of folks, me included, prefer Coke because it is less sweet than Pepsi. If Pepsi is the only thing available, I'll drink a Pepsi. If I'm in the mood for a Pepsi or a soda, I'll drink a Pepsi. That's fine. But if I had a choice, Coca-Cola hands down. And it's kind of strange. You think that people would prefer the sweeter drink. That's not true for a lot of people. I, for one, prefer Coke specifically because it is less sweet. So, New Coke failed miserably. And for the blue team, Pepsi, do you remember Crystal Pepsi? It was that see-through, crystal clear Pepsi. It was around for a couple years, and it died in 1993. It tasted a little different than normal Pepsi. It wasn't that great. And apparently the reasoning behind releasing Crystal Pepsi was that Pepsi was trying to target the breakfast cola drinker. That person who drank who drank soda with their breakfast. I was not allowed to do that. Who actually did that? Who drank soda or pop, depending where you're listening, with with breakfast. That wasn't allowed in my house, for sure. In the beer manufacturer, Coors decided to release their Coors Rocky Mountain Spring Water, which was dead in the water. No pun intended, even though water and water is the same thing. Anyways, turns out people wanted to... The only thing people wanted from a beer manufacturer was beer, which makes sense. Oh, go pick me up a pack of Coors Spring Water. No, go pick me up a pack of Coors. No, get your water from the tap. Get your water from the Coca-Cola company. But beer manufacturers, nobody wanted water from their source of, I was going to call Bud Light water or Coors Light water. It kind of is. Anyways, nobody wants a beer manufacturer making water, and that's why the product failed. But let's get off of liquids, failed liquids, and talk about failed products. And this will be the last one for this segment. One of my favorite failed products was 1995, and when Nintendo, why can't I talk? Why is it so difficult for my lips and tongue and breaths of air to make words? 1995, when Nintendo released the Virtual Boy, which was one of the first consumer home endeavors into virtual reality. Right now, in 2017, we hear about virtual reality all the time. The technology has progressed, to say the least. But in 1995, Nintendo was one of the first to do it, and it wound up making people sick. It wound up making kids blind, wound up giving people seizures. It was super uncomfortable, and I had one, and I liked it. I have big, thick glasses, and it did hurt my eyes, and I couldn't play it for more than a few minutes at a time, which was one of the reasons why it failed. I remember when the Virtual Boy came out, it cost, I want to say, around a couple $100. Maybe that was it. I don't think it was over 200. But then it failed, and vendors just could not get them off the shelves quick enough. And I remember them selling, going to a video game store and them selling the Virtual Boys for like $30, $20, $30. So I had one, and it was pretty cool. For what it was pretty cool. And it did lay the groundwork for future Nintendo devices, like the Nintendo 3DS, which you could argue the 3D part of the 3DS was kind of gimmicky and didn't work. And in matter of fact, the new Nintendo 3DS isn't 3DS anymore. It's a 2DS. They just got rid of the 3D feature, and which makes sense because I do have a 3DS and I love the 3DS, but I rarely ever use the 3D feature of it. It looks cool. Pop it on for a second. Oh, that looks neat. And then you turn it back off. Play the game normally. So yeah, those are a few failed products that have come out over the years. I'm sure you can remember lots more failed products. I drive a failed product. My DeLorean is a failed product. Just bad timing when it came out. Anyways, more Geek Therapy Radio to come. We're going to talk about the new 2017 class of astronauts. We're going to talk about some more geeky things. It's going to be a fun show. I'm Johnny Hamburger. Go like Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, and I'll be your best friend forever. We'll be right back with more GTR. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Once again, I'm Johnny Hamburger, your mental curator for the evening. Go like Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook. I'm going to keep saying it until you're doing it. I'm not going to stop saying it until I have 7 billion followers on Facebook. Not my personal Facebook. That reminds me of something. I'm going to say something controversial right here, and it might offend some people. Not in the way you're thinking right now. It's not the sexual or dirty or anything like that. It's about Facebook and about how many friends you have on Facebook. Nobody has 1,500 friends. Nobody has 2,000 friends. Nobody has 3,000 friends. No, you don't. I'm talking about on your personal Facebook page. John Smith, 2,300 friends. Bullcrap. Bull. You are a liar. You're lying to yourself. There's something going on in your head. Something wrong. You don't have 2,000 friends. I mean, that's not it. Maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you just really need to have validation from people who aren't you. But anyways, no. 1,500 friends, 1,200 friends, 3,000 friends for your personal Facebook. I'm talking about for your personal Facebook. Like I said, for John Smith. If Geek Therapy Radio had 10,000 friends, 20,000, 100,000, 500, a million, few million, that's where I'm trying to get, of course. I want to go to my sweet potential sponsors and be like, look, 2 million potential eyeballs and earballs. Money me, please. Yeah, but that's for a business. That's for a business Facebook. That's for entertainment Facebook or whatever a page is. But if my personal Facebook had 1,500 friends, 2,000 friends, 2,500 friends, no, that's not a thing. Nobody has 2,000 friends. Whittle it down. I think I've got mine, my personal page, I want to say around 300 or 200, and even that is like, what? No. So every once in a while, I'll go through it and I'll whittle people down. Do you ever do that? Do you ever go through your Facebook and just be like, I saw this person once in college. Delete. Unfriend. And it's nothing personal. It's just like, when do I talk to this person? This is somebody who I've seen once through somebody. They're not my friend. They're not even an acquaintance. So why is it on my social media? Why is this person clogging up my feed with their political rants or racist rants or SJW rants? Why? Nobody has that many friends. So anyways, that rant is over. This segment is supposed to talk about the new class of astronauts just announced here for 2017. This is important because these people could potentially go to Mars. A few of these candidates could be the ones who set foot on the red planet, potentially. I mean, that's one of the requirements, obviously, to be selected is, it might be the first question. You want to go to Mars, bro? Or brodette? Hey, lady, want to go to Mars? Are you okay with the prospect of going to Mars? Yes. Raise my hand. So all these candidates are just stellar. Get it? That was a pun. All these candidates are just outstanding, and there's one guy who's standing out to me, and I'll go through a few of them. But there's one guy standing out to me, which apparently he's already sort of going viral. Well, he doesn't have a virus. He can't be an astronaut with viral on the internet. His name is Dr. Johnny Kim, and he is slightly emasculating to me. He is 33. He's a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, and I'm just going to rattle off his stats. He was born in Los Angeles. That doesn't really, it's not here nor there, but he was a U.S. Navy SEAL. Dr. Johnny Kim. Doctor. That should give away something right there, too. Dr. Johnny Kim, 33, U.S. Navy SEAL, completed more than 100 combat operations. He got the Silver Star and the Bronze Star with Valor. Anyways, after that, he went on to complete a degree in mathematics at the University of San Diego, and then he got his doctorate of medicine at Harvard Medical School. this guy can only be an astronaut because he is overqualified for literally anything else in the world. Somebody with that many qualifications is only qualified to fly around in space. I'll tell you that right now. There is no way he can apply for a job. They'd just be like, we can't. No. You can't. You are a threat to everyone in this organization. We can't pay you enough. You will be underutilized. You will get bored with your position. Go try to be an astronaut. That's probably what happened, is he probably went to a job interview with all these qualifications, and they're like, bro, you need to put that brain up in space. And that's just what he did. I'd like to talk to Johnny Kim sometime. I'll get to work on that. I'll see if I can get an interview with Dr. Johnny Kim, the U.S. Navy SEAL with the Dr. U.S. Navy SEAL with a degree from Harvard and a degree from University of San Diego in mathematics. If there's anyone to put into space, if there's anyone you want next to you in space, it's probably Dr. Johnny Kim. And let's round out this discussion of the new class of astronauts with a few astonishing female classmates, candidates. One of them, Laurel O'Hara, she's 34, and she comes from Sugar Land, Texas, so she's homegrown right here in Houston. Go Laurel. That's a nice name, too. Let's put that, I'm going to put that back in my, you know what? Never mind. Having babies is not on the agenda right now. I was going to say it's a pretty name for a baby girl, but I can't have a baby girl. I mean, I'm perfectly able and equipped to produce a baby girl, but I just know me that if I had a little baby girl, I would be reduced to a mess of a man. She would be the most spoiled daddy's girl that ever lived. Ever. I can't have a baby girl. I would wither away into little rose petals. I cannot be a little girl's father. I can't even think about it. Let's get on to more. Let's move on. Let's move on. Kayla Barron. She's 29. She was also in the U.S. Navy from Richland, Washington. She graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis with a bachelor's degree in systems engineering. Okay, that's already amazing. She was in the Navy and has a bachelor's degree in systems engineering. She also went to she's also a Gates Cambridge scholar. She earned her master's degree in nuclear engineering from the University of Cambridge, like I just said. Cambridge scholar. She's a submarine warfare officer. She was a member of the first class of women commissioned into the submarine community. And she'll come to NASA from the U.S. Naval Academy, where she's been serving as the flag aide to the superintendent. These qualifications that these people have, you know, I promise you, every single one of them wanted to be an astronaut basically from birth. From single-digit age, from 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, I guarantee you they wanted to go to space in earnest. They weren't just playing around in their front yard in an old refrigerator box, imagining space, imagining being in space. You know, a lot of us did that as kids, but like they actually started the groundwork from that young age to actually be an astronaut. Did you know what you wanted to be? I mean, we all say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fighter pilot, I want to be this or that. I assume, and I would believe, and I would imagine that astronauts wanted to be astronauts from an early age, and they started working towards being astronauts from that age. Promise you that. Anyways, more Geek Therapy Radio to come. That was a fun segment. I like talking about people going to space, and going to Mars is going to be awesome. What was that? More Geek Therapy Radio to come. I'm Johnny Hamburger. Take this opportunity to whip out your smartphone, your celery phone. Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook. Go like it. Let's get me up to 1,500 friends on Geek Therapy Radio. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm still Johnny Hamburger. Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, geektherapyradio.com. Did I mention about the 12 astronaut candidates, NASA's class of 2017, that those 12 candidates were chosen out of 18,300 submissions? Applicants. 12 out of over 18,000 applicants, which is a record number. And it's probably a record number because there are probably a whole generation of people that are chomping at the bit to be the first to set foot on Mars. That might happen in my lifetime. I'm probably going to, in my lifetime, I'm probably going to live to be 150. That's the genes I have, and that's the age we live in, with this ever increasing life expectancy. I just squinted my eyes. If you can see me talking and being animated here while I do my show, I was talking about lifespans, and I squinted my eyes and furrowed my brow because it made me think of overpopulation. And how many millions and billions of people, just since I was born, populate the Earth. Let me say right now, I am not going down any sort of geeky rabbit trail about unpopulating the Earth. I think Mother Earth and space will allow the Earth to achieve its own equilibrium as far as how many people can be sucking up resources from the planet. There need not be any man-made intervention, intentional intervention to unpopulate. That's conspiracy theory radio. I'm not getting into that. Let George Norrie talk about that. Let them talk about it on Ground Zero Radio, Clyde Lewis. They can go to town talking about depopulating the Earth and those conspiracies. But could you imagine, like I said, I'm going to live to be 150. It's obviously it's becoming a problem, and I promise I won't stick on this subject very long. There's lots of geriatric care. There's lots of elderly people that need to be taken care of, and that we are trying to get, that my generation is trying to encourage to retire so that we can occupy those higher paying gigs, if you know what I mean. Please, Grandpa. Please, Dad. Please retire so I can have your job. Anyways, lots of elderly people. What if there are 2 billion quote unquote old people? And what I mean by old people is I mean people who can't care for themselves. That is a huge burden for the rest of the population to take on. I'm going to get off that subject right now. I guess you could geek out about overpopulation, but I'm not going to do that right here. That's more leaning towards conspiratorial. I'm not. My show is an escape from all that politics and conspiracy. I don't want to do that. Maybe I'd be more likely to do conspiracy than I would be to politics, but not right now. Let's kind of bring it back around. Let's stop, take a breath. reset. Let's go back to space. Let's talk about something that will be a consideration for manned missions to Mars, and that is cosmic radiation. That apparently, of course, cosmic radiation could double the cancer risks for human missions to Mars. Do you not think that that's one of the issues they ask potential astronauts? Hey, this is dangerous. Every step of the way of this career could kill you, and has killed a very high percentage per capita of astronauts. You could die doing this. So if I'm a candidate to go to Mars, and I got to check off the box that I'm okay with increased risk of cancer, you know what? I'm going to say the A word here because I can, and it's effective. If I'm strapping my ass to a bomb, the least of my fears is an elevated risk of cancer in my ass on my way to Mars. That seems like the least of my worries. Sorry, Mom. Your little boy's cussing on the radio. Actually, ass is an animal, and it's not even a 4-letter word. So keep the soap near the sink. It ain't going in my mouth. But that begs the question, radiation in space. A lot of... what? I can't steer clear of conspiracy this segment. A lot of conspiracy theorists as to whether or not we landed on the moon bring up the idea that there's no way humans could have got to the moon because of the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts, for those who don't know, when the charged particles of the sun come at the Earth, all the radiation from the sun bombards the Earth, the magnetism of the Earth deflects that radiation around the Earth. And where they meet on the other side of the Earth, that's called the Van Allen belts. And those are extremely concentrated bands of radiation that a craft exiting the Earth's orbit has to get through in order to travel to deep space, to travel to the moon, to travel to Mars. So detractors of whether or not we went to the moon cite that as a limitation, as if you're just going to go through the Van Allen belts and be vaporized. No, that's not what happens. They have proved that over and over by the fact that we've gone to the moon, but also demonstrably that astronauts' exposure to the Van Allen belts on their way to the moon or on their way to Mars, their exposure to the Van Allen belts is so brief. What was it? It's like getting the equivalent of getting a few thousand X-rays over your lifetime, which is still perfectly within the realm of safety as far as getting radiation-caused cancer. So, going through the Van Allen belts, it makes the Geiger counter go. It makes the Geiger counter go off. You know, it goes crazy for not that long, perfectly within the safety realm of human exposure to radiation. So, exposure to more cosmic radiation, doubling the cancer risks for human going to Mars. That's not, like I said, that's not a concern. And I guarantee you it's not a concern to anybody whose butt is strapped to a bomb that is supposed to explode, hurtling you towards another rock in space. Cancer ain't... that ain't a concern. I don't understand why this is a story even. Let's move on. Actually, you know what? By move on, I mean that's the end of this segment. I got to save some for the last segment. You've been listening to Geek Therapy Radio. You're still listening to it. There's still one more segment to come. These past few episodes, I don't know about you, but I've been having some fun. These have been, here's another word I like to use, these have been titillating to me. And I appreciate being titillated by geeky things. Quick note, by the way, what you're seeing in the night sky in the late evening time, early evening, late evening, currently, that's the moon. That's the big bright one at night. That sounded condescending. It was supposed to be a joke. It failed. So you're seeing the moon, and usually to the right of the moon, in the western sky, I believe it's western sky, is Jupiter. And then towards the east, to the left side of the moon, that little bright dot also, I'm saying this because it's visible in the city, is Jupiter. Saturn. Jupiter's to the right in the west. Saturn is more easterly. And the big bright one's the moon. So we'll be back with more Geek Therapy Radio. Go like Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook. Go visit the website too, which basically the website just takes you back to iHeartMedia and Facebook. Don't tell anybody. A website nowadays for a radio show is more like a digital business card. You can go there and do all sorts of fun things, but it's a business card. Until I start advertising with it, then it's something different. More Geek Therapy Radio to come. I'm Johnny Hemberger. Stay tuned for more GTR, baby. In this final segment of Geek Therapy Radio, GTR, I want to talk about AMD's new Threadripper CPU platform and Intel's quivering response in the Intel i9 in the X299 platform. And what a cluster F it is over at Intel, and how I freaking love AMD for causing such a shakeup in the CPU marketplace. But first, let me touch on a couple different things. I went over to arstechnica.com, getting ideas. That's what journalists do. I'm not calling myself a journalist, just a host, but we get ideas from all over the place. The first thing that pops up on Ars Technica is the feature story, where they review the 2017 Audi R8 V10 Plus, and they call it the best junior supercar we've tested. Get the heck out of here. Junior supercar. 610 horsepower, naturally aspirated V10 engine. Junior supercar? The Audi R8 V10 will smash the bullocks of 200 miles per hour. Junior supercar? Give me that junior supercar. If so junior, I'll take it off your hands. That's fine. Junior supercar. Get out of here, Ars Technica. Get the heck out of here. The other small tidbit of automobile news. By the way, did you know that news, NEWS, stands for Notable Events, Weather, and Sports? News is an acronym. I bet you most people listening didn't know that. Notable Events, Weather, and Sports. It makes sense to me. So anyways, briefly, another brief thing in automotive news. The Subaru BRZ / Scion FRS / Toyota GT86 has been out for a few years now. More than a few years. The GT86 has been out in Japan for quite a little while. Maybe not 10 years. Is it 10 years now? I don't even know. Maybe a little less than 10 years. Anyways, back when I was in the market for a car, I looked at them quite seriously. I thought they were neat little sports cars. Rear-wheel drive, front engine, rear-wheel drive. They were like under $25K. They were a boon in a severely suffering market devoid of quote-unquote cheap, relatively cheap rear-wheel drive sports cars. And they made them really fun by slapping economical Toyota Prius tires on the back, so that even at low speeds, you can get sideways around a corner. Basically, you could have as much fun at 35 miles an hour as you can in a more powerful sports car at 90 miles an hour. So it was a good formula. 50-50 weight distribution, everything is great. Except for, since it's come out, owners and potential buyers have been screaming, please give us more power from the engine. It's like 200 horsepower from the 4-cylinder boxer engine. Boxer engine means that the pistons are opposing. They're on a flat plane. In a V6, they're in a V. In a V8, they're in a V, obviously. In a boxer engine, those cylinders are turned parallel 90 degrees, and they are opposing each other. They're flat. That allows you to get the engine flatter and lower to the ground, lower center of gravity, 50-50 weight distribution, rear-wheel drive. Awesome! Except that people really wanted more power. So, Subaru has responded by not giving it more power. The BRZ has the same amount of horsepower. They still have not added more power. Not that you can't put a turbo on it. But anyways, out of the box, Subaru said, nope, we're not giving you more power, but we're going to put big old Brembo brakes on it. We're going to put an awesome suspension package, better tires, 18-inch wheels now with Pirelli, Michelin, super, what are they called? They're Michelin Pilot Sport 4s. So good tires. It's a good track. I bumped the mic. It's a great track setup. So now, instead of, the tail end coming out at 35 miles an hour, which was fun for, having a little bit of backwards hat fun on the road, now it's an actual track car. It'll stick to the track. It'll go around the track. The suspension will sort everything out. The big old smooth Brembo brakes will get you stopped, and you can brake later, accelerate sooner. But still, no more added power. Too bad, so sad. If it had a little more power, I might have considered it back when I was car shopping a few years ago. Anyways, on to CPU wars. My next computer build will be AMD. For the first time in 10 years, I will use an AMD processor. That's because Ryzen was released a few months ago, AMD Ryzen processors, which are, about 90% as good as Intel processors, but cost a fraction of the price. Intel processors are still better per core than AMD processors, than the Ryzen processors, but that really doesn't matter because lots of people, including myself, are willing to have 90% of Intel's power for a fraction of Intel's price. So AMD at Computex announced Threadripper, which is, somewhere around 18 cores. 18 cores. 36 threads. Now Threadripper, it's going to come in multiple core setups, but the one I'm thinking of, 18 cores, and it's supposed to be under $1,000 for the processor, which is a lot of money still. But think about this. Intel's offering, if you want 18 cores on a single processor from Intel, you can buy a used car instead. They cost up into the thousands of dollars. $1,500 up above $2,000, $3,000. You can spend a lot of money for that kind of core count on an Intel platform. So, Intel's response to AMD's Threadripper has been just a disaster, scrambling. They have not released, but they are going to release. We have the Core i3, i5, i7. Now we're going to have the Core i9 in the i9 Extreme Edition on the new X299 platform, which just... I don't have enough time to get into it here this week. Maybe I'll get into it more next week. It's just riddled with logistical problems, handicaps. They've purposefully have crippled the platform in many areas. It's marketing to consumers, not not necessarily enthusiasts, but that's part of the mess. That's part of this whole mess. Is who is the X? What is the X299 platform? Who is it marketed towards? It's going to be so expensive, and it's a direct response to Threadripper, which is going to cost a fraction of the price. It's like, Intel, who are you marketing this stuff for? You're apparently going to need a key, like a physical key, USB key, whatever, to unlock certain RAID setups. To briefly tell you what RAID is, RAID, what it means is you can have, do I really need to get into this? 2 or more drives acting as one drive. And what happens is you get either increased speed or increased redundancy or both. But in order to unlock certain RAID setups, there's RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 10. I won't get into the details of it. But instead of it just being software controlled or hardware controlled, you're going to have to buy a key, buy a physical thing from Intel to unlock certain RAID setups. It's just a mess. That's the end of Geek Therapy for this week. I'll get more into AMD Threadripper and Intel's Core i9 response to it in the X299 platform, and what a mess that is. I'll get into that next week, but it's a mess. But I'm just super stoked for AMD for causing such a shakeup in the industry. That's good for us. That's good for consumers. Competition is good for us. Competition is good for Intel. Competition is good for AMD. That's it for Geek Therapy Radio. I'm Johnny Hemberger. Go to Facebook, Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, and also geektherapyradio.com. Friend me on Facebook. Let's get it going. I love all of you. Like I keep saying every week, I wish you understood, you listening right now with your ears pressed up against the speaker. I wish you realized how valuable you are and all you have to offer to this world, to this society, if you just speak up. Speak up for what's good. Speak up for what's right. Speak up for the beneficial convictions of your heart, either for yourself, for society. Trust it. Those good things, trust them. Trust yourself. You are a good thing. That's it for GTR. See you next week.